guys, this is Blue Forest. So, as you saw, I just did some gameplay with Windy on the armor lane in Act 4 to make the fights longer. I did pick her up a couple days ago. She was one of my favorite bots in the old game, so very exciting to play with her again. And Windy is definitely one of the biggest damage bots in the game. She's all about her DOT, crazy bleeds, lots of shock, lots of crits. So I just want to go over her a little bit and just give you some tips if you're not very familiar with her. So my Windy is just at rank 2 now. So, I will be ranking her up eventually, but I just wanted to give you a sort of feel for how she plays in that gameplay. And she was able to make very quick work of both Slipstream and Tantrum, which is very impressive considering that they were both on a 90% armor mod and Windy is only rank 2 and unforged. So she's a really fantastic bot and very fun to play. And in that Slipstream fight, I mainly did special ones just because I wanted to see how quickly I could sort of bleed her out. It did not take that long. And then against Tantrum, where Windy has class disadvantage and he's a very tanky bot on top of the mod, I was still able to finish him in just over 100 hits, which is very impressive. So a maxed out Windblade is going to be able to melt opponents very easily. And so Windy's kit is almost identical to how it was before. She is a warrior now, before she was a scout. Her SIG is decent, but it does not need to be maxed out at all. It just increases her crit rate as the fight goes on. It's about a 10% increased crit rate at SIG 1. It goes up to 25% at SIG 100. It's definitely more useful in long fights because obviously the opponents are dying more slowly, and you do see the crits go up as the fight goes on. You certainly can get her SIG high if you want to use her a lot, but she's going to do just fine even at low SIG. And so, Windy is all about her bleeds and her shocks and her armor piercing. And so, she gets increased crits on her sword attacks, and, she often bleeds on her crits as well, those critical melees. The invulnerability to ranged attacks when she heavies is also very useful, especially against ranged mods or bots with tricky ranged specials, like a blaster special too. So, if you launch a heavy, the instant that blaster, for example, activates his special too, it's just going to blow right by her, so that gives her some protection. And she also has some pretty decent stuns, right? So she has a chance to stun on bleeding opponents, and the opponents will often be bleeding. And she also gets an additional stun when you land 4 bleed stacks, which often happen. So her stuns are not very long, 1.5 seconds, but as long as you react quickly, you can often get an extra attack in. And so once you get the hang of her, you can land these stuns relatively frequently, which is helpful. Now, the one change to her kit is with her special one. It's related to Stormfall Blast, right? So she always shocks in her special one, but she can also land an additional stronger shock if the opponent has a crit rate buff or would activate one while shocked. She will nullify it and deal an extra stack of shock. In the old game, when she was a scout, it related to power rate buffs. Now it's crit rate buffs, which is helpful. A lot of bots have crit rate buffs, especially scouts, by the way. And since Windy is now a warrior, she's going to have class advantage against scouts, and she'll be very good against them. Her special 2 is amazing, not only because it does huge damage, but because it is armor piercing. So her special 2's bypass armor makes her very good against tanky bots, like in that Tantrum fight I just did, right? So I did mostly special 2's against Tantrum, and she was able to make very quick work of him because of that. So that makes her really useful against tanky bots in general because of that armor piercing she has. And her special 3 is not a very strong special. It does not do a lot of damage, but it can stun, and more importantly, it can be useful in long fights because it has more hits than any other special in the game, along with Slipstream, of course, but Slipstream special 3 is a copy of Windy's. You can sometimes opt to use the special 3 first in a long fight because it racks up her hit count, which is useful for Starseeker. So you definitely don't need to use special 3 in a longer fight, but there are circumstances in which it would be helpful to start with the special 3 and then go to special 1s and 2s. So She's got a crate kit, you know, she bleeds a lot, she shocks a lot, her crits are crazy, big damage, and, you know, a useful SIG in those longer fights. And she's always had good synergies. You know, she has attack with Ramjet, but Sword Masters is one of the best in the game, leads to more crit damage and more crits in general with Bludgeon and Dinobot. Drift used to be part of this as well. Obviously, he's no longer with us. But if you have either Bludgeon or Dinobot or both of them, really useful to bring them along. It really helps a lot. She does have some anti-evasion with Wasp and Starscream. And she also has these, you know, newer synergies with Slipstream and Chromia, right? So she has the additional crit rate with Slipstream, which is helpful. But I really wanted to test out this synergy with Chromia, and it's pretty awesome. I was really happy with this. And I only have a 2-star Chromia, but the good news is, doesn't matter which tier of Chromia you have, 2-star to 5-star, you're going to get the same benefit. So she's getting 18% power after every special. That's more than half a power bar, which means that if you use Chromia with Windy, you're going to be able to get to a new special after pretty much every combo because she gets that surge of power. You're going to be able to get to a special too with just a couple of combos. That's super, super awesome. Now, you definitely don't need Chromia, but any game mode in which, you know, you're able to use Windy with Chromia together, I would recommend it because it leads to a lot more power and a lot more specials. So I was very excited to see this synergy in action. And so, you know, if you're looking for another bot to invest in or a warrior to play around with, Windy is awesome. Now, being a warrior, she has, you know, lower health. She's fairly fragile like most of the warriors and the scouts, you know, so if she starts getting hit, she is going to take a lot of damage. But if you're a pretty good player and you really like those big damage bots with huge DOT, Windy is one of the best options for you. She's also outstanding with the Deep Wounds Mastery, longer bleeds, more damage, etc. So that's an overview of Windblade, guys. I cannot recommend her enough. She's just super awesome and very fun to play. So I'm really happy she's finally back with us. It's been quite a while. So I would go for it, guys, if you're looking for another bot to invest in. She's a really, really strong one. So I will leave it there for now. I hope all of you are well, and we will be in touch again soon. Take care.